Hi lovely people, welcome back to my channel, Raina Read Stuff. I'm Debs. I'm here in the book shack. I've got the heater on. It's chucking it down with rain. I'm hoping that's not going to interfere with the microphone. We'll give it a go and see how it works. It's Sunday, therefore it's time for my weekly reading wrap up. And every book this week has been a physical book, so they all count for my Read What You Own challenge. Um, for those of you who don't know, Read What You Own is devised by Olly at Olly, and I'll list him and the co-hosts down below. The idea is to read whatever number of books you decide to do for your challenge before you buy any of your own. I am having to do 125 books because of my out of control book buying over this year, and therefore I started a week early. I am also only doing physical books for my challenge. Ebooks don't count. I can still read them, they just don't count. Anyway, I have finished this 500 Nations by Alvin M. Josephy Jr. This was written to accompany a television series that was on in America. I've never seen it. It's taken me a while to get through it. It's a big old book, but it's beautifully illustrated. And towards the back, there are photographs. I love old photographs. This is really sad. It's so heavy, it keeps wobbling the camera. This is really sad. It's about how white Europeans completely destroyed the life of indigenous peoples in North and South America. In fact, it starts with South America. I don't know what it is about Europeans. They seem to think they own everything. It's not Europeans. It's specifically white people. I mean, this tells the story starting with the Spaniards, and then the English join in, and then the French join in, and then the Russians join in. And we take things. We take things that don't belong to us. Land, sacred land. And we decide that everybody needs to be the same as us. They need to practice the same religion. They need to live in a certain way. So basically, it tells the story from when the Europeans turned up at the doorstep. It's a bit like me going over to my neighbour's house and saying, I need to live here now. You need to go and live in your shed. And I say it in a language they don't understand. And then I push them out into their garden and into their garden shed. And then a little bit later, I trundle up to the garden shed and say, actually, I need the shed now. You're going to have to live somewhere else. And I push them out of there as well. It's a very interesting book. It has quite a lot of original sources from documents and letters and things like that. It introduces some archaeological artifacts and talks about those. But basically, it's a story of how white Europeans destroyed Native Americans. I'm glad I've read it. I'll certainly keep it. It's very interesting. I've got another couple of books on the same subject, but this one, like I say, very heavily illustrated. So the pictures and the captions were fascinating. So I read that for not only Read What You Own, but also Historathon and for Nonfiction November. Right, the rest of them, let's go down in order that I read them. First up was this, Passenger to Frankfurt by Agatha Christie. I read this for the Read What You Own challenge, but also for the My Novel Life challenge, where I am reading a book for every year that I've been born, starting with 1965, which is when I was born. This was book number, what would that be? 6, 7, 8, 9. This is book number 6. It was from 1970. You read them in order of the years, and they have to be novels, and you can't repeat an author, and they shouldn't be rereads. I'll list all the info down below. This did not feature Hercule Poirot, who's my favourite. It didn't feature Miss Marple. It didn't feature Tommy and Tuppence. In fact, it didn't even feature a murder. Turns out it's a spy novel. And so therefore, it counts for Dr. November. Again, information down below. Run by Mark at Book Time with Elvis. This features Sir Stafford Nye, who is approached at an airport by a woman who asks to borrow his passport. And he agrees to drink a drink that she says is going to send him to sleep, which it does. Luckily, it doesn't kill him. And she takes his passport and his wallet and his cloak. She's as tall as him, and he falls asleep in the corner of the airport and she disappears off. He's in the diplomatic corps. Causes a bit of a kerfuffle. But then he meets her again. And she's a different person then. And he finds himself in this battle to bring back sanity to the world. I really enjoyed it. It's the first Agatha Christie book that I've read that hasn't been a crime novel. Then I read this, Runners by Ann Kelley. Wasn't sure what I was going to make of this. This is a dystopian futuristic novel involving two children, a 14-year-old who is actually allowed to live in this world, and his 5-year-old sister who isn't. Only children between the age of 8 and 16 are safe. Their parents have been taken, they know not where, and Sid, who is the 14-year-old, is trying to make sure his sister remains safe. It took me a little while to get into it, but actually, by the end of it, I really enjoyed it. I liked the characters in there. They drew in some other adult characters. Some who were trying to kill them, some who was trying to protect Sid, and others who just tried to help them. And actually, it was quite good. I quite liked it. Next up, Kate Ellis, The Shadow Collector. I like Kate Ellis. One of the reasons I like Kate Ellis is because I love crime stories. I enjoy the murder mysteries. But this one also includes archaeology. And we have D.I. Wesley Peterson, who is a black police officer who has relocated from London to Devon. He's married to a white teacher. They have 2 children, and the family also becomes involved in this story. This is a series, and the families are also heavily involved in this series. It also features their friend, an archaeologist called Neil Watson, who they were both at university with. And D.I. Peterson studied archaeology. And it's almost like a dual storyline where they intersect, which I like a lot. In this one, we have a woman who has just been released from prison after 18 years, serving 18 years for murder. She and her mother were found guilty of murdering 2 teenage girls. And apparently they sacrificed them and then fed them to the pigs. Lilith's 18-year sentence is finished. The mother died in prison. She returns to the cottage that her and her mother lived in. Obviously, that doesn't go down too well with the villagers. Then a woman is found murdered very close to her cottage. Turns out she's a journalist. And she has been trying to find information about something big. You know not what. Nearby, in fact opposite where Lilith lives, is a farm that is being used for a celebrity, you're stuck on a farm and have to shovel cow dung all day TV series. There's a lot of secrets, there's a lot of twists, but I really like this author because I enjoy... Oh, the dual storyline is that Neil is excavating a cellar that's been found in an old house, and the new owners are having the house done up. Paneling needs to be removed from the wall, and behind the paneling they find tiny coffins with hideous little wax effigies in them with needles stuck in them on pages of a diary of a woman who used to live in that house in the 1600s and was hanged for being a witch. All very good fun. By Grand Central Station, I sat down and wept by Elizabeth Smart. I'd never read this before, and it is absolutely beautiful. Elizabeth Smart found a book of poetry by a guy called George Barker in a shop and read it and fell in love with him. She started correspondence with him. This is all true, by the way. She started correspondence with him and eventually persuaded him and financed him moving from Japan, where he was lecturing and was very broke, to the US to be with her. But he brought his wife. Elizabeth Smart had a long-standing affair with him. She had 4 children by him. but she wasn't the only person he was having an affair with. And this is her writing about that affair. It was originally published in 1945, and the writing in it is so beautiful and so sad. Poetic prose, it's just lyrical, and I couldn't get enough of this book. This is going down as one of my classics for my classic 60 before 60 challenge. But if you haven't read it, read it. It's lovely, absolutely lovely. This was another one I wasn't too sure about. I'd obviously bought it. I like the cover, actually. That's probably why I bought it. This is The Last Summer of Us by Maggie Harcourt. It says, story of love, lies, grief, friendship, and growing up. This features 3 late teens. 2 boys, Stefan and Jared, and a girl that they've nicknamed Limpet. And they're all broken. It starts with the funeral of Limpet's mum. Limpet's mum was an alcoholic and drank herself to death. Stefan's mum died a few years previously of cancer, and he now lives with his dad. Jared's mum's about to move in with her boyfriend, and she doesn't really want Jared around. Jared's dad is just about to be released from prison. He has spent quite a lot of Jared's life in prison. He has stolen from or assaulted or conned most people in their small Welsh town. And the action of the book takes place over 3 days, the day after Limpet's mum's funeral. Her dad is also an alcoholic, and her mother's sister has come to try and sort something out, some sort of rehab for the father. So she tells Limpet to go and just make herself scarce for a couple of days, and she decides she's going to go to Stefan's. Stefan, however, has decided that they're going on a road trip. It's the beginning of the summer holidays, so in his beaten up old car, the 3 of them head off into the sunset. And during the course of their trip, things are revealed, secrets are revealed, and their friendship is tested. And again, this was a beautiful book. Sad, but I couldn't put this down. I wasn't sure about it. I didn't know why I bought it. But obviously I've got more sense than I thought, because it was good. I've never read anything else by Maggie Harcourt. I like, when I'm buying books, to try and purchase at least one book from someone I've never heard of and know nothing whatsoever about. And this was probably one of those. But I really enjoyed it. Finally, book number... Yeah, this is book number 7 for this week. Little Foxes by Michael Morpurgo. Anyone who's been hanging around this channel for very long will know that my very favourite children's author is Michael Morpurgo. The man has written scores and scores and scores of books. I think I've got at least 50 of them. Anyway, one of the reasons I like Michael Morpurgo so much is that he doesn't pull any punches. He doesn't dumb things down for kids. He doesn't ignore the nasty things in the world. He goes for it. But he does it in a way that, like I say, it doesn't talk down to young people, but it explains things. And some of his more famous books are War Horse, which has been adapted into both a film and a stage show. Private Peaceful. Often they deal with war, but they deal with death. They deal with things that you wouldn't normally discuss with kids, like people being shot for cowardice in the First World War. This one isn't a war book. This one is about a small boy who is found on the steps of a police station. He is called Billy Bunch because the policeman who found him was called William, and he was put into a box of flowers, and so he's named Billy Bunch. He's a strange lad. He's got a stammer, and he's quite reserved. Doesn't really like to talk to people. He gets put into a children's home. No one really likes him very much. He gets sent out to foster homes. 9 times out of 10, they send him back. He's living with a foster carer for the majority of this book, in a flat next to a wild landscape. And in that wilderness, he calls it, he starts to study nature. And first of all, he saves the cygnet from being stoned to death by older kids. And then, I mean, he spots kingfishers and all sorts of wildlife is there, and he loves it. He then finds a family of foxes. There's a mother fox and 4 cubs. And then the mother fox is killed. And so he takes it on himself to feed the 4 cubs, which he does by stealing food here, there, and everywhere, and making up powdered milk for them. And they begin to get to know him. But then someone discovers that there are foxes on that site, and they send in exterminators with gas that kills them. Or at least he thinks that it's killed them. Turns out one is still alive. And this is how he tries to save that fox. And how he, in turn, is also saved. So that's my reading for this week. I have now read 18 books for the Read What You Own challenge. So hopefully by next weekend, with a bit of luck, I'll actually be down to the 100 that most people are doing, or people who are doing the top tier of the challenge are doing. It was me who added the extra 25. What I'm trying to do is make sure I keep up with page count. So Olly and Co have determined that 250 pages is the average page for a book. Therefore, I have to read 31,250 pages. I am currently up to 4,768, which is, if you divide it by 250, it comes to just over 19. And I've read 18. So my page count is quite good. I did a video a couple of days ago. It was the I'll get around to it later book tag. And a couple of things stuck out for me. One was this, The Jungle Book, which I've decided I've probably had since I was 10, which is almost 50 years ago. I've never read it. So I'm about that far through. I also started Mary Oliver's New and Selected Poems. I'm about that far through. I like to read poetry slower, though, because I like to absorb it. And then I also found a Michael Frayn book, this one, Spies, which is perfect for Dr. November. So I might have a look at that as well. I hope you've been reading fabulous things this week. Let me know in the comments. If you're taking part in any of these events, Tell me what you're reading. How are you doing with your Read What You Own challenge, if you're doing it? I know a lot of people are allergic to Read What You Own challenges. I find it quite useful because I'm obsessed with buying books, and it's just a way to curb my enthusiasm a little bit. I hope you have a lovely week. Thank you very much for popping by. It's lovely to see you. I've got a couple of videos coming up this week. We're halfway through the Historathon fourth quarter, so I thought I'd do a quick update. And I'll be catching up with another couple of book tags. So, if you fancy popping by again, that's what I'll be up to this week. Have a lovely, lovely week, and I will speak to you very soon. Bye for now.